One day in Iraq, a father turns to his 18-year-old son and says, "Son, we need to go to the capital. There's an honourable matter for us to take care of." So the son and the father get in the car, and they drive the hour's journey that it takes to get to the capital. When they arrive, the father looks at the son and says, "Son, we found a woman here for you to marry." And the boy looks down, smiles lightly at this beautiful opportunity that's presented itself to him. The son looks outside and just sees a sign with the name of the city on it. He turns back to his father and says, "Thanks for the bag, Dad!" Assalamu alaikum everybody, and a very warm welcome to episode 35 of the Arabic with Sam podcast. I pray that you guys have had an amazing week. I pray that you guys have bounced back from the month of Ramadan and you guys are studying hard, learning tons of Arabic and enjoying it. That's the most important thing. So, in this episode we're talking about just leveling up our sentences a little bit. We're gonna take a little trip into Aramiya land probably at some point throughout this podcast, because some of the things that we're going to be learning have very, very easy equivalents in Aramiya, which either you'll have heard before or will be useful to you if you want to learn, spoken dialects of Arabic. So what we're talking about in this episode is how to kind of up-level our sentences, how to up-level our Arabic sentences a little bit, because there's a few very useful little expressions that you can learn that make your sentences just sound a lot better. Do you know what I mean? And these are kind of in sort of the higher brackets of grades for the Arabic GCSE as well, for those of you who are interested in that. So, I think in English we call these kinds of verbs, I think we call them like auxiliary verbs or modal verbs or something like that, but you guys can maybe correct me on that. But we're talking about things where you say something like, "I want to," and then another verb comes after it, right? So, "I want to play, blah, blah, blah," or "I hope to, blah, blah, blah," or "I need to," or "I have to," or or "I should," verbs like that, right? Like verbs that kind of govern another verb, like "I should speak," or "I should do whatever," right? So verbs like that, right? And they're the kind of thing that we're going to get into in this lesson. So to start with, kind of how these things are expressed in Aramiya a little bit, because there's very, very easy ways to express this in Aramiya, very, very easy ways. So although there are a few different ways in Arabic to say that you have to do something, the way that's usually used in Aramiya is lazim. You just say "ana lazim," like I need to something. Yeah, lazim is just the way of saying have to, right? And you just stick a verb after it, right? "I have to go" in Aramiya is like "ana lazim aruh." "Ana lazim aruh," I have to go somewhere. Or "ana lazim akul," I need to eat something or whatever. And that's really easy, right? Like, even if you're masculine or feminine, whatever, you can just say lazim, and that just means, like, must, yeah? Like, you have to, or you must, right? And then with wanting to do something as well, like, the dialects vary a little bit, but generally in Egypt, you can say "ayiz" and "ayiz," or if you're a woman, you say "ana ayiza," and that means that you want something, and you use it in a very similar way to lazim, yeah, but ta'ayiz, it's not a verb, it's actually in the fa'il pattern. Egyptian dialect is very good at using the fa'il pattern in lieu of verbs, instead of verbs, so you can, it's very kind of characteristic of the Egyptian dialect of Arabic, so rather than say like "ana askunu fi," you can say "ana sakin fi," rather than saying like "I live somewhere," by saying "ana askunu" and using the verb, you can just use the active participle, the fa'il, instead and say "ana sakin fi blah blah blah," and that's a very common habit in all dialects, but it's particularly clear in in the Egyptian dialect. So so that's how it's done in Egypt. In Palestine, Lebanon, Syria, you tend to say biddi, and this e on the end, you use it the same as like you use prepositions, how you use like indi and stuff like that. Like for "I want" and indi, you want, عندك or عندك. That's how you do the endings in Arami. You say عندك for feminine and عندك, rather بدك and بدك, right? For you want and you want, for masculine and feminine. But but in Arabic, in standard Arabic or in Fusha, there are about, I don't know how many we're going to go through, about 8 little verbs that are really useful to know. So the first one is to hope to do something. To hope to do something. So you say "ana atamanna." Atamanna means I hope. "Ana atamanna." And then you need to put this "n" afterwards, right? This little word "n" is just spelled, alif, noon, n, and afterwards you need to use a verb which is mansub, right? And that normally means, like, if you're already kind of familiar with conjugating verbs a bit, all it means most of the time is you stick a fatha on the end. That's all it means most of the time, right? So if we're going to say something like, I hope to go tomorrow, or something like that. I hope I'll go tomorrow. Yeah, you'd say أنا أتمنى أن أذهب غدا. Yeah, so you're saying أذهب rather than أذهب. Normally in the present tense, if you're saying I'm going, you'd say أذهب. But after n, n is one of these things that makes the verb that comes after it mansub. But as I say, with most verbs, with a lot of verbs rather, it just means you stick a fatha on the end. In all of the singular, for most of the students, so that's how you're going to use it most of the time. So, yeah, and atamanna an, I hope to something. And for those of you who are on my program, those of you who are my students on the 60 Steps program, that's lesson 12, by the way. Step 12 is what I'm talking about there. We cover a few other of those in step 12 as well, just so you guys are aware of it. So, yeah. Next one is to say, like, I love to do something. Yeah, like, quite often, like, real beginners, I'll hear the word hubb. Hubb does mean love, and, if you're accustomed to Egyptian music and stuff, you probably hear habibi. It means, like, my dear or my love or whatever. Or habibati, if you're talking to a woman. But the verb is uhibbu. To love something is, or I love something rather, is uhibbu. So if it's I love to something, like, for example, if you love to play football, yeah, you can say uhibbu an, and then again we need a mansub after, we need the certain mansub. So normally you would say I play, yeah, you'd say al'abu, but because of the an before it, it's going to be al'aba, yeah, uhibbu an al'aba kurat al-qadami, yeah, and it needs to be kurat al-qadami because kurata, the ball needs to be kurata because this is the object of the sentence, the maf'ulun bihi, but it needs to be kurat al-qadami because whilst kurata is the object of the sentence, it's also the mudaf in this. You say, like, the ball of the foot. That's how you say football in Arabic. Kurat al-qadami. Yeah. Idaf is a step 18, by the way. if any of you are on the program and you're not sure why we haven't covered that yet, that's step 18. If you haven't covered that yet. So yeah, so uhibbu an is a really useful one too. Next is to say that you want to. This is the most likely one that you guys will have known before listening to this. But uridu an. I want to learn Arabic. Yeah. Uridu an ata'allama al-arabiyyata. Yeah. If you're talking about the language of Arabic, you need to say al-arabiyyata. That's different to in Aramiya. In Aramiya, if you're saying Arabic, you can just say Arabi. You don't need to. It doesn't need to be feminine, but in Fusha it does, because you're implying the lugha. The word for language in Arabic is lughatun, which is feminine, right? So it's kind of implied that you're talking about the language, which is why you use the feminine normally, to describe the language in Arabic. So, but back to this point though. So uridu, I want an ata'allama. So I want that I learn. Uridu an ata'allama. You can say al-lughata al-arabiyyata if you want, but al-arabiyyata will serve you just fine. And by the way, like, when I'm saying these, like, I quite often, just as a point, I actually say the case endings on the end, but you don't need to do that. On the end of the sentence, you actually don't need to pronounce the case ending, right? Like, even if you were having a conversation in Fusha with someone, it's not really even correct for you to say أريد أن أتعلم اللغة العربية. Yeah, you don't need to say this ata on the end. At the end of the sentence, you don't need to say the case ending, right? So in an actual conversation, if you were fortunate enough to find people who would have conversations with you in Fusha, you would really just say, أريد أن أتعلم اللغة العربية. Yeah, العربية, and you just end with عربية. That's just a side point, really, about speaking Fusha. But I often put it on the end just for the benefit of the students. Just so the students know what case ending is. So, cool. So we've done I hope to, أتمنى أن. We've done I love to, yeah, أحب أن, and then we did I want to, أريد أن. So the next one is I need to. Yeah, I need to. So with this one, you don't actually put n on the end. There's a verb أحتاج. أحتاج, but you say إلى. There are some verbs that just kind of have a preposition tied into them a little bit. Like, it's very hard to separate them from the preposition that you have to use with them. The verb ذهب is like that, to go somewhere. You can't really say أنا أذهب without saying إلى. If you're gonna say that you go anywhere. You have to say you go to this place, right? As I've said before, we can't say, I went restaurant. Yeah, maybe some people say that in English, but you shouldn't, right? You should say I went to the restaurant. And the verb أحتاج, يحتاج, is just like that, right? So أنا أحتاج إلى, I need to do something. And in that case, you're not going to say إلى and then a verb, right? You use a noun after that. So if you're going to say to go, like I need to go, yeah, you could say أنا أحتاج إلى الذهاب. Yeah, so going is the dhahab. That's the noun, right? And you use that instead. So that's an example of where you might use a verbal noun or a mustard. I know some of the students on my program have asked me to kind of go into a little bit more detail of what we even mean by a mustard, like when do you use it and what is it for. So maybe we'll use that as an example. But anyway, so the next one, to say I should do something. You should do something. You use this verb yanbaghi, but there are a number of verbs that we're gonna learn about in this lesson today, which, regardless of what person you're speaking about, you always use this beginning verb in the third person, right? So let me show you what I mean. So if we're gonna say something like I should drink some water. Yeah, I should drink water. So even if you're talking about I, right? The I should at the beginning, you say yanbaghi. You still use the yanbaghi. You don't say anbaghi. You say yanbaghi an. So it's like, he should that I drink, yeah? Ashraba, yeah, ma'an, water, right? So there are only a few verbs that are like that, and we'll go through them in this lesson, but yanbaghi is one of them. So regardless of who should do something, you still say yanbaghi, but it's the next verb after that indicates the person, right? So I should drink yanbaghi and ashraba. You should drink yanbaghi and tashraba. We should drink yanbaghi and nashraba. Right, it's the next verb afterwards that indicates the person. Right, and that's the case with that verb and a couple of others that we'll have a look at now. So another one is yajibu an. This yajibu, some of you might recognise it as being from this term wajib that you hear quite often in it's a fiqhi term, wajib, to mean that something's compulsory. I think it's pretty much synonymous with the term fard for it to be compulsory, but wajib, wajib. So it just means that it must be, right? So if you're going to say I must something, you'd still say yajibu an, and then it would be indicated in the next person, yeah? If it's saying I don't know, we must travel. Yeah, we must travel tomorrow or something like that. So it'd say yajibu an nusafira. Yajibu an nusafira. So the yajibu still stays yajibu, just like yanbaghi stays yanbaghi, but it's the verb afterwards which indicates the person, right? But yajibu is the way of saying you have to or you must. It's synonymous as well. You can say min al wajib an nusafira. It's compulsory that we must travel, or min al wajib an nadrusa, we have to study, right? So min al wajib and yajibu, they're the same thing. Very similarly, right? So we kind of learnt about how saying you have to, you can say yajibu an, or you can say min al wajib an. The next examples we'll talk about are saying mumkin. Mumkin is used all the time in Arabia. It can get you out of things all the time. Saying, I remember hearing tourists all the time say to people near the pyramids, when people try to sell you stuff near the pyramids, people are like, oh, mumkin bukra. It's maybe tomorrow. Mumkin bukra. Bukra is a word that Bukra does exist in Fusha, but it doesn't mean the same as what it does in Amiyya. Amiyya, Bukra means tomorrow, but it's used in the Quran even to mean the morning. Bukra. It comes from the same root as the word mubakkir, meaning early. If something's mubakkir, you do something early. So anyway, so mumkin, back to mumkin. So just the same as we learnt with yajibu and min al wajib, you can say yumkinu or you can say min al mumkin, right? You can use either of those two. So you could say yumkinu an, and it kind of means it's possible, right? It's maybe or it's possible, right? So, yumkinu an, it's sort of saying it's possible, yeah? We might say something like يمكن أن نشتري هذا البيت. Yeah, maybe we'll buy this house. Yeah, من الممكن. You can say من الممكن or يمكن أن. Yeah, and they both mean the same thing, and they both need to have an with them as well. So Yeah, you can choose. I mean, if you, it's quite nice to have those varieties because, especially when you write essays, like if you do the GCSE or the A level or whatever, or any other kind of formal exam, you need to write essays in Arabic. It's nice just to put them both in, rather than kind of two sentences in a row. In the first sentence, if you were going to say something like, يجب أن أستمع إلى أمي or something. I need to listen to my mum or something like that. In the first sentence, in the next one, you could say من الواجب أن something else, right? You can just show that you understand the variety of different ways of expressing the same thing, and that tends to get good marks, inshallah. And then the very last one is just on the same note of have to. There was one that I missed out. Rather than saying يجب أن, there is something that you can do which doesn't use a verb at all. You can use the verb على and then be to say that something is compulsory, that you must do something, على and then be. So we see this in a hadith. It's in that book. Like I taught a load of hadiths from this book ages ago. It's a little book with the 30 hadith for children. There's like the first 10 hadith from it that I teach on my YouTube channel. So those of you who are on my YouTube channel now, you can check that out if you want. Or if you're listening on the podcast, you can go over to the Arabic with Sam YouTube channel as well. But yeah, but the Messenger of Allah ﷺ uses this himself in a hadith where he says, "Alaykum bis-sidq, alaykum bis-sidq." So alaykum, it is upon you, bi-sidq, like truthfulness, like speaking the truth. It's compulsory for you to be truthful. Alaykum bis-sidq. Or if you just used it singular, alayka bi something else, right? And you'd use a noun after that. So alayka bi whatever, right? Whatever you want to say is compulsory for that person. So that's not a verb, but I thought it'd be worth mentioning in case you encounter it or wish to use it yourself. So that's everything. I think we've probably covered another 10 new words or something like that, and a few phrases chucked in here and there. Cool, so how should we end the podcast? I'd like to invite you guys to something. I always like to end my videos, my podcasts, by kind of inviting you to something so that you can benefit from something else. So, I suppose I'll tell you a little bit about the Arabic in 60 Steps program. I'm sure that a lot of you guys have heard of it. But it is my kind of flagship program. It is the thing that I spend most of my time on, and I dedicate myself to the students mostly on that. It's not a free program, but that's something cool that I can tell you guys about right now, actually. So I have opened an opportunity for students to start it for only £50. It is, it is a pretty colossal undertaking, really. Like, to be honest, it's a bit bigger than I ever imagined it would be, really. Like, because it is a complete Arabic language program to take you from, like, understanding just your very first sentences all the way up to reading like Arabic travel writings, being able to read newspapers in Arabic, and it's mainly focused towards reading Arabic, although it's not against speaking. It's just that's just kind of the format that it is. It's mainly a spoken Arabic program, which is the foundation of Arabic anyway. But so normally the program is about £500, just under £500, but I've opened up an opportunity for students to pay for it £50 a month for 10 months, so you can split up your payments for as much as 10 months. And I mean, £50 a month, like some of you guys are spending that on like a Sky TV subscription and stuff. Like that's, a lot of people can kind of come up with that, and I don't think that's too much to ask for something where, you get like premium resources sent to you in the post. You get 6 months of mentorship from either myself or one of my team members. You get access to, the Facebook closed community of all of the students that are in there. You get access to all 60 of the video lessons, right? And each one of the lessons has exercises in the workbook. You have the answers there, so you can check your own work as well. You have access to bonus translations and stuff, and you can also download the audio of the videos as well. Just in case you're a person who likes listening to the podcast, as you probably are if you're here, you might like to consume the course while you're in the car or you're driving around or whatever. So that's also available to you too. So there's tons of resources. It's packed with support, packed with reasons for you to actually finish it. And, it's a program that I very, very much believe in. So if you have any questions about it, you can just get in touch with me as well. I'm a pretty easy to get hold of guy. You can drop me an email, arabicwithsam@gmail.com. You can get in touch with me on Instagram, at arabicwithsam. I respond to pretty much all of my DMs if I can. Facebook, Arabic with Sam. Twitter, Arabic with Sam. Pretty much everywhere, really. I'm even on Snapchat as well, if you're on Snapchat, and that's the best way for you to get hold of people. let's call it a day there. I'll let you guys get on with the rest of your day. Thank you very much for joining me for episode 35 of the Arabic with Sam podcast. Next episode 36, is going to be about the Arabic GCSE tips, hacks, and questions, because my inbox is full of people who want help with the Arabic GCSE. I've spoken quite abruptly about my thoughts on the Arabic GCSE in the past, but I think it'd be nice to give a balanced episode on it. So that will be next week, episode 36 of the Arabic with Sam podcast. I'll see you guys then. A very warm assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.